Hello everyone, we are Tom and Melissa, and we welcome you to come sit at my table. It is the week before Thanksgiving, and we are actually having Friendsgiving at our house with some friends this week. So we have started working on Thanksgiving foods. Today, we are going to make a pecan pie. Now, the nice thing about a pecan pie is that you can make it well ahead of time if you're going to serve it at a big dinner. It's not something you have to make at the last minute. Pecan pie will do fine in your refrigerator for several days, 3 or 4 days easily. Or if you want to make it even earlier, you can actually freeze a pecan pie and it will last in your freezer for a couple of months. All you have to do is take it out of the freezer the day before you're going to serve it and leave it in your refrigerator so that it can thaw, or just take it out and put it on your counter. Now, I like pecan pie cold, so I just leave it in the refrigerator. But a lot of people like pecan pie at room temperature. If that's you or the people you're going to serve it to, just leave it on your kitchen counter, let it come to room temperature, and it will be fine. Of course, we're going to start making a pecan pie by fixing our crust. I can make a pie crust. I've made many pie crusts in my life, but I'm going to tell you, these Pillsbury crusts are daggone good. There's nothing in the world wrong with them. In fact, I have taken pies places and people have said, "What recipe do you use for your pie crust?" They really are a good product. So that's what we're using today. Don't be afraid to use a convenience food that helps you out. So what we're going to do is put a little flour down on our mat, and I'm just using one of these silicone mats to roll it out on. That kind of keeps my counter clean and keeps my pie from sticking to the counter. But we need to put a little flour down. Just make sure it's spread around. I am using a pie plate that is 9 inches across. The opening is 9 inches, and that's about an inch deep, just a little less than an inch. So we're going to roll this out to about 11 inches or just a little better. We do want a little bit of a lip on there that we can kind of crimp. We want to flute the edge of it a little bit, so we will roll it out just maybe a hair bigger than 11 inches. I don't think I have ever done a pie video where we have rolled out the crust. I think I always have it ready and we just show it to you in the pie plate. But I thought today, actually this is almost 11 inches the way it is. I thought today we would show you how we roll it out and put it in the pie plate. Now, anytime that you are doing a high sugar filling in a pie, you do want plenty of flour on both sides of your pie crust. That just helps absorb some of that liquid, that sugary liquid that's in your pie, and kind of keeps it from being runny or, too juicy in the bottom. Now, the nice thing about this mat that I'm using, and by the way, I got it from Amazon, it does have circles on it with different measurements, so you can tell how big you're rolling it out. And that's about what we need right there, I think. Maybe just a hair more in this direction. Okay. So, because it is a high sugar pie, I am going to put some flour on it. We don't want a ton of it, but we just want it kind of sprinkled with flour. Roll it around a little bit just to make sure everything's covered. And then the easiest way for me to do it is to fold it. And I'm going to put some of this on here too. We want some on both sides just to help absorb that. I fold it in half. Rub this side to make sure it's got flour on it. And then I fold it in half again. Pardon me, my allergies are acting up. It's just part of living in Kentucky. And then I take it to my pie plate and just open it up. I'm not sure, Melissa. I'm not sure this is going to be big enough. I thought it was. I think I'm going to have to roll it out a little bit more. Sorry.
Not happy with that?
Nope. I want it to be big enough that we can flute the edges a little bit. So I'm just going to roll that out. I use this rolling pin a lot. I love this little rolling pin. When I first saw it, it almost reminded me of a toy. But you remember where we found this?
I think we found it in Tennessee.
Nope.
No.
We found it at a yard sale in Indiana, didn't we? No, it was in Tennessee.
I thought so.
You're right. It was in Crossville, Tennessee. You're right. It was there. We found it at a yard sale. And I'm telling you, I have used that thing. I have 1 or 2 rolling pins. Or 6. But I use that one most of the time. Just because I like it so much. It's so easy to use. Okay. Now, let's make sure we have a little flour on here. A little on the other side. Let's see if it's big enough this time. Okay. So fold it in quarters. Bring it over to our pan, our pie dish, pie plate, and open it up. Now, you never want to stretch your pie dough. If you stretch it, that will make it shrink. You have to gently work it into your pie plate. Don't stretch it down into that corner. Just let it kind of fall into there. Just take the edge and let it go down in. Now, once you have it all the way down in your pie plate, then you can start working the edges over like this to get them into the edge of the pie plate and up over where you can do a flute. Just kind of like this. And always put my hand in the pie shell, in the pie crust, just to hold it so it doesn't come out of that corner. And you know what? That could be just a hair longer there. But I can't stretch it. If I do, it'll shrink. Okay. And you know, your pie crust may shrink just a hair anyway when it's baking. If it does, it's fine. It's not going to hurt it. It's a pie crust. All right. Now, we have it over the edge of our plate. If I can get that little wrinkle out right there. That's better. I got one right there. Come out of there. That's a little better. Now, I want to flute the edge, and I'm just going to tell you, I've said this in videos before, I am not an expert pie crust crimper by any means. But here's what I do. I just take my first 2 fingers on one hand and my first finger on the other, and I kind of push them together. Just like that. It's not fancy. It's nothing that you'd write home about, but it's how I do it. And you just want to work around. Just take your time. There's no reason to hurry. If you're in that big of a hurry, you might want to wait and make your pie later. Just take your time and do it right. And if you feel like you've messed up, just do it over. It's not going to hurt anything. Just crimp it again. Just push it in. And if it's not perfect, that's even better, because then it looks like a homemade pie crust. If it looks like something that came frozen from the store, then nobody's going to think you worked really hard. So make it look homemade. It's fine. Okay, There we go. That one's pretty ugly right there. Let's try that again. That's a little better. Okay, so there's our pie crust. It's ready to fill. So I'm going to sit it back here out of the way. And we're going to stop right here because I want to clean this mess up before we start making the filling. So give us just a minute and we'll be right back. We have cleaned up the counter. We like to do that as we go because it just makes it easier at the end of a dish if you've cleaned things up as you go. Now, let's talk about what we're going to need to make the filling for our pecan pie. First, of course, you need pecans. Well, I've got 2.5 cups of pecan pieces. Now, someone did ask us to make a pecan pie recipe using pecan halves. And I considered doing that, but the truth is I don't like using pecan halves in a pecan pie. And I'll tell you the reason. When you get ready to cut the pecan pie, the large pieces of pecan halves are not lined up where you can cut it evenly. And it seems to just tear up, rip apart the top of your pie. So I usually break up my pecans. I want you to look at the difference in the size of these two pecans. This pecan half is really small and this one's really large, and they were in a bag together. So if I have a small one like this, I normally just break it in half and use it that way. But if I have a really large one, I might break it in half and then break each of those in half. I guess you could say I'm quartering them, because it just makes the pieces easier to cut the pie and not tear it up when you get ready to cut it.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. If you want to use pecan halves, you can certainly do that. Just use about 2.5 cups of pecan halves and put them in your pie shell. Now, all we have to do is just dump them in. And then you want to kind of spread them out evenly. Of course, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to make sure that they're up against the edge of your pie crust a little bit, because when you pour in your filling, they are going to float. And you want to make sure that there's some all over the top of the pie. In fact, we may have to move them around a little bit once they, oh, there's one I missed. They may need to be moved around a little bit once they float. All right. We're also going to use 3 eggs, half of a stick of butter, and that's 4 tablespoons. Pardon me. 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. So we've got a 1/2 cup and 1/4 of a cup for 3/4. 1/4 of a cup of white sugar, just regular granulated sugar. We have 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons. Now I know that's a weird measurement, but it does work better if you put that extra 2 tablespoons. So 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of dark corn syrup. Someone's probably going to ask, can I use light corn syrup? And you certainly can. The difference in light corn syrup and dark corn syrup is that light corn syrup is made with vanilla, and dark corn syrup is made with a molasses, a type of molasses. This just has a deeper, richer flavor, and I think it makes the pie have a little better, quite a bit better taste. But you do not have to use dark corn syrup. You can use light. It just won't have the depth of flavor. So either one works. I like the dark corn syrup. We're also going to use 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. All we have to do is put those in a bowl and whisk them together and pour it right in on top of our pecans. So I'm just going to break these eggs into this bowl. And then we will whisk those up before we add everything else, because you just want to make sure that those eggs are beaten up and that they don't, leave big clumps of whatever in your pie filling. So we're just gonna whisk those for a minute. Make sure that the whites and the yellows are combined well, especially the white, the clear part of the egg. You want to make sure that it's broken up and will mix in with everything else well. Okay, now everything else just gets dumped in. There goes your half stick of butter. It's 4 tablespoons. Just make sure all that gets in there because, you know, butter equals flavor. Or 3/4 cup, and that is packed brown sugar. I packed it in. 1/4 cup of white sugar. Dark corn syrup. Now I did spray the inside of my measuring cup with some nonstick spray just to help that come out easier. But Melissa, if you can hold that, I'm going to grab a spatula that I can scrape it with. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I want every bit of that out there. That is a lot of flavor, so we don't want to leave that in there. Okay, scrape that off. Okay. Then we're going to add in our vanilla. And by the way, the cap on your vanilla is almost always 1 teaspoon. So you can measure it without dirtying up a measuring spoon. Then we're going to use just a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And I've had people say, I'm shocked that there's cinnamon in your pecan pie. It just adds a little bit of flavor. Most people don't even know it's there until I tell them. And then just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And that's it. We're just going to mix this up. Make sure that sugar, the brown and the white sugar, get dissolved. Make sure that dark corn syrup gets mixed in. You just have to whisk for a minute until everything gets combined. I want to make it completely combined here. You don't want lumps of anything or chunks of anything. You just want to make sure it's really mixed up. Scrape the sides, get it all down in there. And now we're just going to pour it right on top of our pecans. Make sure it's completely covering those. And look what's happening with the pecans. They do, they pop right up there. Now, I'm going to get rid of this and go back to my whisk, or to my spatula, because we want every drop of that out there. Now, once you have it all in there, you need to look at your pecans and make sure that the whole pie has pecans floating. If you've got a section of your pie where there are no pecans, you might want to take a fork or a little knife or something and just kind of move them around. You could even do it with the edge of a spatula. But you can see there, that's pretty good. Everything is pretty much covered. All right, now we have our oven preheated to 350 degrees. If this pie was in like an aluminum pie plate, something that's flexible, I would certainly put it on a cookie sheet because you don't want to pick it up and it collapse and have a mess. But this is a glass pie plate, so it will be fine. So I'm just going straight into the oven, but I am covering it with a pie shield because I do not want the edge of my pie to burn or overbake. So I will cover it. I will probably check it about 10 minutes before I think it's finished. And if it's not overbaked, I may take it off just to let it brown up a little bit. So we're going to put it into the oven for 50 minutes. We'll check it. It may need another 10 minutes, but 50 to 60 minutes is usually about right. You do not want to have a jiggle when you check your pie. In the very center of it, you might have just a tad of movement, but really there should be no jiggle to it. If there is, you need to bake it another 5 minutes or so. All right, we're going into the oven. When it's finished, we'll be back and let you see what it looks like. Our pecan pie baked for exactly 50 minutes and was plenty done. It has been several hours. We have allowed it to come to room temperature, and then I put it in the refrigerator for, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. You can see that it is perfectly set up and ready to serve. Now you will notice that because we used the dark corn syrup, it is a darker pie. If you don't like that look, if you prefer a more pale colored pie, then use the light corn syrup. It will be just fine. It will taste delicious. But the dark corn syrup does give it more of that deeper, richer flavor. All right, this is the good part. You want the first bite, babe?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Ooh, I dropped a piece.
Yummy, thank you.
Now, I have to have a little whipped cream on mine. A little bit of Redi-Whip. And you know, a lot of people prefer vanilla ice cream with it. So if you're going to serve this at Thanksgiving, you may want to provide both some vanilla ice cream and some Cool Whip or Redi-Whip. Because
that's really good.
some people like one or the other.
You did a really nice job, babe.
Thank you, babe.
It was really good.
Oh.
I think I agree with you on cutting up the pecans too. You don't have to bite through a big chunk of one.
And look how much nicer it slices.
Yeah.
If you have big pecan halves and you try to slice through those, a lot of times it just tears up the top of your pie.
Good call.
But if you're somebody who's just dead set on a pecan pie, has to have whole pecans, then use those. It'll be just fine. It may be a little harder to slice through. It might kind of break up a little bit as you slice it. It may not, but that's just my preference. I could eat this whole pie. I'm not going to lie to you. But I shouldn't do that on camera, should I? Okay.
But we have friends coming over for Friendsgiving. You shouldn't.
I might make them something else. This might be ours. All right, we do appreciate you watching our video, and especially those of you who have subscribed. If you have not subscribed to our channel, we sure would appreciate you doing that. Just go right below this video, click that subscribe button. There's a little notification bell beside of it. Looks like a dinner bell. Click it and the word all. YouTube will always notify you when we add a new video. We normally add new videos on Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you can watch for those. Pardon me. Also, if you would, we'd appreciate you going right below this video and giving us a click on the like button. That helps us get our videos out there more. Thank you so much. Remember that right below this video, there's a description box. You'll see the title of our recipe. It'll probably say Thanksgiving pecan pie or something. Click on that title in that box. That box will expand, and Melissa always puts the written recipe in that box. So it's written out for you. You don't have to write it down as we go. It's right there for you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you watching. Make sure you come back the next time. And remember, you are always welcome to come sit at my table. Happy Thanksgiving.